They say revenge is best served cold. But that night, under the glittering chandeliers of the banquet hall, I served mine warm, wrapped in a smile so calm, even he couldn't taste the storm beneath it. He held her hand, his mistress, in front of everyone, and I just watched, silent, graceful, deadly. Because when a woman finally stops crying, she starts planning, and my plan had already begun. The hall gleamed with crystal light, polished marble floors reflecting every shimmer of the chandeliers above. Waiters moved with the precision of dancers, balancing silver trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres. It was the company's annual gala, a night meant to celebrate another year of success. But tonight, success had a new face, hers. Chloe, Daniel's mistress, his perfect little secret, now unveiled like a prize he couldn't wait to show off. I stood by the corner of the room, every inch of me perfectly composed. My emerald green gown caught the light just enough to command attention, yet I stayed out of the spotlight. My expression was calm, unbothered, but inside, my heart pounded, not from hurt anymore, but from the thrill of control. Because this wasn't heartbreak anymore. This was the execution of a plan I'd built piece by piece, moment by moment, through every tear he'd ever made me shed. Daniel looked good, too good, really. His suit tailored perfectly, his smile rehearsed and charming. He was the man everyone admired, the CEO who built an empire from scratch. But I knew the truth beneath the polish. I knew the nights he came home reeking of someone else's perfume, the mornings he left before sunrise to meet investors, the countless excuses that turned into silence. And now, there she was beside him, the woman who thought she'd won. Chloe's beauty was undeniable. Soft curls, porcelain skin, and that naive confidence of someone who thought love would protect her from consequences. She clung to him like a statement, her hand resting on his chest as if claiming territory. My stomach twisted for a moment, but not from jealousy. It was from amusement. She had no idea what she'd walked into tonight. I picked up a flute of champagne and crossed the room slowly. The crowd parted subtly as I moved, some out of politeness, others out of curiosity. Everyone had heard whispers, and everyone was waiting to see what I'd do. Daniel noticed me halfway across the floor. His confident smile faltered just slightly before he recovered. "Sophia," he said as I reached them, his tone honeyed but tight. "You made it. I wasn't sure you'd come." "Of course I did," I replied, my voice smooth. "It's tradition, isn't it? The wife always stands beside her husband on his big night." Chloe's eyes widened slightly. I turned to her and offered a polite smile. "And you must be Chloe. I've heard so much about you." Her hand trembled a little as she took mine. "It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Hartman." "Oh, please," I said lightly. "Call me Sophia. We're all friends here, aren't we?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "Sophia, I think we should." But I wasn't listening. I leaned closer, lowering my voice just enough for him to hear. "You really should have been more careful with your emails. Passwords are so easy to crack when you use her birthday." His smile froze, eyes flickering in confusion, then alarm. I stepped back, my own smile never fading. "Enjoy your speech, darling. I'll be right here, cheering for you." He barely had time to respond before the host's voice boomed over the microphone, calling him to the stage. He excused himself, squeezing Chloe's hand for reassurance. I could see the doubt forming behind his eyes now, the cracks beginning to show. The applause filled the hall as he began his speech, his usual polished nonsense about leadership, integrity, and innovation. He was brilliant at pretending, I'll give him that. His words rolled off his tongue effortlessly, each one laced with practiced sincerity. But tonight, he was reading from a script I'd written for him without his knowledge. As he spoke, the large LED screens behind him flickered. The first image appeared, a photograph of Daniel and Chloe holding hands in the lobby of a luxury hotel. The room went still. Some guests thought it was part of a presentation at first, but then another photo followed, Daniel's hand on her waist, the two of them kissing under dim lights. Then the text messages appeared. "You looked so beautiful last night, baby. I wish she wasn't in the picture anymore. Just a few more weeks. Once she signs the papers, we'll be free." The crowd gasped. Someone dropped a glass. Chloe's face drained of color. Daniel stopped mid-sentence, his voice cracking. "Turn it off," he shouted, but it was too late. The final clip played. A voicemail, his voice unmistakable. "Don't worry, babe. She's too stupid to see what's happening. Once I get her signature, the money's ours." The silence that followed was heavy, almost painful. Then came the whispers, sharp, cutting, spreading like wildfire through the room. Phones came out. Photos were snapped. Every second of his humiliation was being captured and shared. Daniel's mask shattered completely. He turned toward the tech team, yelling, but chaos had already broken loose. His board members stood frozen, their faces hardening with disgust. Investors exchanged looks. Chloe pulled away from him, tears streaking down her perfect face. I watched from the corner, expression calm, heart steady. I could almost taste the panic in the air. When his eyes finally found me across the crowd, I raised my glass and smiled. A small, almost invisible nod. That was when it hit him. He realized it wasn't an accident. It wasn't sabotage. It was me. He stepped down from the stage, fury blazing in his eyes, but no words came. He couldn't scream at me here. Not in front of the people whose respect he needed to survive. And that silence, his helplessness, was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. I set my glass down on the nearest table and began walking toward the exit, every step deliberate, measured. The whispers followed me like a wave, soft and powerful. Did she plan this? Did you see her face? She doesn't even look angry. Outside, the air was crisp. I inhaled deeply, feeling the cold wind brush against my skin. For the first time in months, I felt light. Free. The sound of chaos inside the hall faded behind me, replaced by the quiet hum of the city. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't tremble. I didn't even look back. Because everything I'd lost, my pride, my peace, my trust, I'd already reclaimed at the moment he saw that smile. He thought the show was over. But I was only on the opening act. The real ending, he would never see coming. When a man breaks a woman's trust, he believes he's won control. But what Daniel never understood is that love doesn't make us weak, it teaches us patience. And patience, when mixed with betrayal, becomes the sharpest weapon of all. He thought the scandal ruined him. But what came next destroyed everything he'd ever built. The morning after the banquet, the world woke up to his downfall. Every business newspaper, every gossip column, every online headline screamed the same thing. CEO caught in scandal, affair and fraud exposed at company gala. The video clips went viral before sunrise. His name trended for all the wrong reasons, his polished reputation shredded overnight. The investors withdrew their trust. The board members called an emergency meeting. The empire he'd spent 10 years building began to crumble before he could even issue a statement. I watched it all unfold from the quiet of my living room. A cup of coffee in my hand, the news playing softly on the screen. They replayed his speech again and again, freezing the moment the first photo appeared behind him. His face, shocked, pale, powerless, was etched in my memory like a painting. I didn't need to see it again, but I let the video play anyway. It was a reminder, a promise kept. My phone buzzed nonstop that morning, messages from friends, journalists, even old acquaintances I hadn't heard from in years. Most of them pretended to be concerned, but I could read the curiosity between their words. They all wanted to know how it felt to watch my husband's humiliation in front of the world. I didn't reply to any of them. I simply turned off my phone and looked out the window, the city skyline glowing with morning light. For years, Daniel had made me feel small, silenced my ideas, mocked my instincts, and treated my loyalty like weakness. I was the woman behind the scenes, the one who managed the books, organized the staff, soothed the investors, and cleaned up his mistakes. But he was the one who took the credit, who stood in front of the cameras and called himself self-made. I had been his shadow for too long. Now, he was standing in mine. By noon, his lawyer called mine, demanding a meeting. Daniel wanted to talk things through, to fix what could be fixed. I laughed when I heard that. There was nothing left to fix. He didn't understand yet that this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about freedom. We met 2 days later in a sterile conference room, the kind designed to make people uncomfortable. He looked older already, his eyes tired, his tie loosened, the confidence stripped from his posture. For a moment, I almost felt pity. Almost. Sophia, he began, his voice low, uncertain. You didn't have to do this. You could have just left. I tried, I said quietly. You wouldn't let me. He sighed, rubbing his forehead. You've destroyed me. Do you even realize that? I leaned back in my chair, studying him. No, Daniel, you destroyed yourself. I just stopped cleaning up after you. His jaw tightened. You think you're free now? You think they'll respect you after this? You'll always be the woman who brought her husband down. I smiled faintly. Maybe, but at least I'll never be the man who betrayed everything he touched. Silence filled the room. My lawyer cleared his throat, sliding a folder toward Daniel. These are the divorce papers, he said briskly. We suggest you read them carefully. Mrs. Hartman is seeking full ownership of the joint assets registered under her name. Daniel flipped through the pages, his hands trembling slightly. He paused when he reached the list of properties and accounts. You can't take all of this, he muttered. Half of it belongs to me. Not legally, I replied. You transferred most of it to my name years ago to avoid taxes. Remember, you thought I was too naive to notice what that meant. He looked up, realization dawning on his face. I met his eyes, calm and steady. You always underestimated me, Daniel. You always thought I'd stay no matter what. But you forgot one thing. Quiet women aren't weak. They're just collecting evidence. The meeting ended without another word from him. When I walked out of that building, the sun was bright, the wind cold, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years, peace. Weeks turned into months. The scandal slowly faded from headlines, replaced by newer stories. Daniel tried to rebuild, but his name was tainted. No company would touch him, no investor trusted him. The mistress, Chloe, disappeared from his life as soon as the money dried up. I heard she moved abroad, chasing a new opportunity. Typical. Meanwhile, I rebuilt what he'd destroyed, myself. I launched a consulting firm with the connections I'd made quietly over the years. The same investors who abandoned him approached me, drawn to my steadiness, my quiet intelligence, my resilience. Within 6 months, my company was thriving. I didn't need Daniel's name anymore. I had my own. The following year, I was invited to host a charity gala, a symbol of success and grace reborn. The same hall, the same chandeliers, but everything felt different. This time, I wasn't standing in anyone's shadow. The crowd cheered for me. The music played for me. My name glowed across the screens, and I didn't flinch when the cameras turned toward me. As I stepped onto the stage, my gown flowing like liquid gold, I saw him. Standing in the back of the room, uninvited, watching silently. Daniel. His hair was a little grayer, his shoulders slumped, his eyes heavy with regret. For a brief second, our eyes met. There was no hatred left in mine, only understanding and distance. I took a deep breath and began my speech. A year ago, I said, my voice steady, I stood in this very hall feeling broken. Tonight, I stand here whole. Life has a strange way of teaching us who we really are. Sometimes it does it through pain. Sometimes through betrayal. But every ending is a chance to begin again, stronger, wiser, freer. The room fell silent. Cameras flashed, people leaned forward, and I continued, my gaze never leaving the man in the back. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means no longer giving pain the power to define you. I learned that the hard way. And to every woman here who's been silenced, doubted, or betrayed, remember this, your silence can build strength, and your strength can rebuild your world. Applause erupted. I smiled, not for the crowd, but for myself. Because in that moment, I realized I no longer needed revenge. I had something far better, freedom, dignity, and peace. After the event, I walked past Daniel on my way out. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His eyes said everything, regret, loss, and the haunting recognition that the woman standing before him was no longer his. I paused beside him just long enough to say, you should have never mistaken my silence for weakness. Then I turned away, the sound of applause echoing behind me as I stepped into the cool night air. The city lights shimmered ahead like 1,000 second chances. I took one last breath, let the memories fall away, and smiled. Sometimes, strength isn't about fighting back. It's about walking away so powerfully that the world has no choice but to notice. That night, I didn't just close a chapter. I rewrote the whole story. And for the first time in years, it finally belonged to me.